Hello. Thank you for watching this reading tutorial. I'm going to be doing some close reading to uncover themes in Doris Lessing's short story, Through the Tunnel. I created this lesson, but I'm using slides from SlidesGo. So, just an overview of the story. Jerry is a young boy on vacation. We don't know exactly how old he is. Well, wait a minute. I think we do discover how old he is now that I think about it. I think they do mention his age. But right now, we just know he's a young boy on vacation. He's learning about independence, he's learning how much he can endure. And we find that his determination to swim through an underwater tunnel is proof for himself as well as others how he has matured. So that gives us kind of an overview of what we can expect. And the objective for this lesson is I want students to be able to analyze themes of identity, self-discovery, and perseverance by reading this short story, Through the Tunnel. We're going to be covering probably more than these two standards, but for sure, actually, you know what? This is supposed to say, hey, good thing I caught this. That actually should be reading literature standard 2, not 1. But this part is correct. Objectively and accurately summarizing in complex text to determine 2 or more themes or central ideas. We're going to be doing that. And then language standard 4, we're building that academic vocabulary. Academic vocabulary in this case would be the idea of finding theme in literature. And then being able to discuss theme, being confident enough that we understand how to uncover theme in literature enough to be able to discuss it with others. So historically, one of the biggest challenges for students studying literature is understanding what theme is and how to discover it in a story. You had an assignment prior to this about theme. You watched a vocabulary video about theme, and then you showed me through this story of Pip the dog that you could uncover theme and kind of separate what main ideas are from plot and from theme. And we're kind of, all of us are kind of at different levels of being able to achieve that skill. But we will continue working on it. So one of the themes of the story we're about to read is about how overcoming personal challenges help us grow. We grow through overcoming our personal challenges. So just to review what theme is, the theme of a story is the central idea or insight about life that it reveals. And this insight is a truth about human behavior that the writer has usually discovered from maybe their own experiences. The theme is usually not stated directly in a story. The author isn't going to say, hey, everyone, here's the theme right here. But we see characters act out the theme for us. And if the story works, which I believe it does in this story, and this is, partially why I chose this story, but we get to feel the characters' experiences so strongly. We're going to feel Jerry's experiences so strongly that the truth that Jerry has revealed to him is going to be revealed to us as well. Some thematic elements to look for in the story are some like rites of passage, seeing Jerry exert his independence, seeing Jerry being self-determined, how he feels isolated, how he shows us perseverance. Remember that theme is rarely, if ever, explained in a word or two. Theme is usually a sentence or two, sometimes even more than 2 sentences. I just want you to know these are thematic elements, but these wouldn't count as a true writing of what the theme is, because again, that would be written in a sentence or 2. So some things we're going to see Jerry go through. We're going to see the physical challenge of his swim. We're going to see through that physical challenge how he grows emotionally and psychologically. We're going to show him desiring more autonomy and independence, especially from his mother. We're going to see some local boys and his mother kind of leaving him with these feelings of feeling isolated. Um, and then how he's going to be balancing between fear and courage, which we all experience in life. So that's a very universal human experience. We're going to see Jerry push beyond his comfort zone. And then we're going to see that universal experience again at play in the story of these personal trials that he experiences as part of growing up. All right, so let's read. And I just want to give that reminder that reading for school requires a different skill set than reading for pleasure does. So we're not just reading the story for pleasure. I hope it is pleasurable for you, but I want to show you that a close reading and doing some analyzing and uncovering theme requires a closer reading than just reading for pleasure. So I'm going to be modeling that for you in this lesson. All right, Go Through the Tunnel by Doris Lessing. Going to the shore on the first morning of the vacation, the young English boy stepped. Let's back up and try that again. Going to the shore on the first morning of the vacation, the young English boy stopped at a turning of the path and looked down at a wild and rocky bay and then over to the crowded beach he knew so well from other years. His mother walked on in front of him, carrying a bright striped bag in one hand. Her other arm, swinging loose, was very white in the sun. The boy watched that white naked arm and turned his eyes, which had a frown behind them, toward the bay and back again to his mother. So I'm modeling kind of what goes on in my mind as I read, and a couple of things strike me here. One thing that strikes me is that his mother is walking in front of him, and that gives us an image of him being what? I'm trying to think of like a word to use here, but it shows kind of a different rank, if you will, that she is maybe showing more importance. If you're walking behind somebody, you're typically not the most important one. You are the follower, not the leader. So his mother is the leader. Also interesting why the author is pointing out that her arm was very white in the sun, and that the boy is noticing this white naked arm, meaning, it's not covered. What would cause her at the beach to be so pale? Perhaps she covers herself when in the sun. She doesn't allow herself to tan. It could also be that it's early in the season and she hasn't, gotten that base tan yet. But an author is pointing this out on purpose, right? It's not an accident that the author is pointing that out. So maybe more of that will be revealed to us. And then thirdly, I want to point out that he has a frown behind his eyes. And that should cause us as a reader to kind of sit up and take notice of that. Why does he have this frown behind his eyes? So I am going to just sort of, point that out to myself that maybe that's something I want to come back to. I want to know why he's got this frown on his face. And he looks at the bay and then back again at his mother. It's very possible that the bay is symbolic of independence, a place maybe he wants to strive for, and maybe gain some autonomy from his mother. And I know that the word autonomy came up earlier when I was going through kind of an overview with you. So that would mean I might want to, if I don't know what autonomy means, I might understand from the context Ms. Carlson is talking about here, but maybe this is something that I want to find out the meaning of, so that I am more astute here. Let's see. Okay. And a site that I love to go to for my definitions is vocabulary.com. And I'm going to look up the word autonomy. All right. When a group wants to govern itself or a person wants to make independent decisions, they are looking for autonomy. Autonomy comes from the Greek roots auto, meaning self, and nomos, meaning custom or law. This reflects the political sense of the word, a group's right to self government or self rule. When a person seeks autonomy, he or she would like to be able to make decisions independently from an authority figure. Can you relate? Okay, y'all are teens right now, in the upper echelon of teenage years, but I would guess that you are looking for some autonomy in your life. A right to, let's see, to be able to make decisions, just trying to think how I want to say this, independently from an authority figure. And I would guess that is true of those of you watching this tutorial right now. All right. So again, just kind of showing you some of that out loud modeling for you about how I do some close reading. And then also, why a frown? And maybe I put that in, I don't know, like a pink color or something. I'm just having fun with it. I'm a very visual person, so I like. All right, why a frown? That's not showing up very well, is it? Okay. And then maybe I come back to some of these annotations that I'm making later. Moving on in the story. So he frowns, looks toward the bay, then back again at his mother. Continuing on in the story. When she felt he was not with her, she swung around. "Oh, there you are, Jerry," she said. She looked impatient, then smiled. "Why, darling, would you rather not come with me? Would you rather—" She frowned, conscientiously worrying over what amusements he might secretly be longing for, which she had been too busy or too careless to imagine. He was very familiar with that anxious, apologetic smile. Interesting. Okay. Contrition sent him running after her, and yet, as he ran, he looked back over his shoulder at the wild bay, and all morning, as he played on the safe beach, he was thinking of it. A couple things are calling my attention here. One is the word contrition. I'm going to highlight that because, and why is this not? Shoot, I wanted this to be highlighted. Let's try this. There we go. If I go back to my trusty vocabulary.com and look up the word contrition, I can kind of, again, figure it out from context, but I want to know exactly what it means. In the truest sense, contrition is feeling sorry for committing a religious sin and being scared about the consequences. But anyone can feel general contrition for something they've done wrong. Contrition is a strong, powerful feeling that people get when they've done something wrong. Originally, this feeling came from having sinned and a fear of going to hell for it, but over the years, the idea of contrition has gotten broader. And in this sense, in this story, it is a broader definition of contrition, or a broader sense of the word. So like littering, right? We know it's probably not the right thing to do, and we might feel a sense of contrition from having littered. So contrition sent him sent him running after her. He's used to her being the decision maker in their relationship, right? And so at this point in the story, he's not autonomous, right? He's still under his mother's thumb, if you will. And I also want to point out the fact that he played on the safe beach. I feel like that's going to become important going forward, that he's still on this safety side of things. Next morning, when it was time for the routine of swimming and sunbathing, his mother said, "Are you tired of the usual beach, Jerry? Would you like to go somewhere else?" Oh no, he said quickly, smiling at her out of that unfailing impulse of contrition. Ooh, repetition in an author's writing is something that we want to pay attention to. So there's that word again. Where this, when you see something repeated, it's important, right? The author wants to show you that it's important. Oh no, he said quickly, smiling at her out of that unfailing impulse of contrition, a sort of chivalry. Yet, walking down the path with her, he blurted out, I'd like to go and have a look at those rocks down there. She gave the idea her attention. It was a wild looking place, and there was no one there. But she said, Of course, Jerry. When you've had enough, come to the big beach. Or just go straight back to the villa if you'd like. So she's giving him permission to go down and look at those rocks, even though it's a wild looking place. So she is giving him a sense of autonomy, at least to some degree. All right, moving on in the story. She walked away, that bare arm, now slightly reddened from yesterday's sun, swinging. So she's going through a physical change here, the author wants to point out. She has bared her arm to the sun, and she has had, a little bit of sunburn as a result. And he almost ran after her again, feeling it unbearable that she should go by herself. But he did not. Here is a shift in Jerry's behavior. He did not run after her again. He overcame that feeling in himself. That is a mature sort of change in him happening. She was thinking, of course he's old enough to be safe without me. Have I been keeping him too close? He mustn't feel he ought to be with me. I must be careful. So the mother is also sensing this shift that her son is growing older, right? And desires to pull away from her a little bit. And so she is at least cognizant of the fact that she needs to be thinking about not holding him too close and letting him mature. He was only a child, 11 years old. There we go. We find out how old he is. He was only a child, 11 years old. She was a widow. So we learned that about them. There's no father figure here. She was determined to be neither possessive nor lacking in devotion. So she's kind of striking this balance. She went worrying off to her beach. As for Jerry, once he saw that his mother had gained her beach, he began the steep descent to the bay. From where he was, high up among the red-brown rocks, it was a scoop of moving bluish-green fringed with white. So there's that separation between mother and child. She goes off worrying toward the beach, and he, even though he's still looking after her, he's not following her, right? So there's this separation between them. As he went lower, he saw that it spread among small promontories and inlets of rough, sharp rock, and the crisping, lapping surface showed stains of purple and darker blue. Finally, as he ran sliding and scraping down the last few yards, he saw an edge of white surf and the shallow, luminous movement of water over white sand, and beyond that, a solid, heavy blue. He ran straight into the water and began swimming. He was a good swimmer. He went out fast over the gleaming sand, over a middle region where rocks lay like discolored monsters under the surface, and then he was in the real sea, a warm sea where irregular cold currents from the deep water shocked his limbs. So we're getting a lot of sensory detail in that paragraph. We've got these this kind of juxtaposition between these inlets of rough, sharp rock, but then we've got this luminous movement, this kind of smooth feeling of the water as well. And then he is sliding, but he's also scraping. So again, kind of juxtaposing these different sensory details. We're also seeing a lot of color being mentioned. So we've got purple, blue, white, and then white again, and then heavy blue. So we don't want to just ignore when color is brought up because it could have some symbolism. We've also got the words cold as well as warm. So, sort of that, again, that dichotomy going on there. And then we've got, there was something else that kind of struck me. Oh, these rocks laying like discolored monsters under the surface. Ooh. So that's a simile, right? When we say something is like something, that's a simile. So rocks are being compared to discolored monsters. Are we supposed to take notice of that? Are we supposed to consider these rocks being monsters? Is something going to happen? Can we make any predictions based on what we're seeing and reading here? When he was so far out that he could look back not only on the little bay, but past the promontory, sorry, not only on the little bay, but past the promontory that was between it and the big beach, he floated on the buoyant surface and looked for his mother. So he's still not completely separating himself from his mother. He's still tethered to her a little bit. There she was, a speck of yellow under an umbrella that looked like a slice of orange peel. He swam back to shore, relieved at being sure she was there, but all at once very lonely. So he's swimming back to shore to get back to her. But here he is feeling separate from her. All of a sudden, he gets this feeling of loneliness. And maybe we'd never consciously thought of that when we were 11, when we were starting to kind of pull away from our parents. But maybe looking back on it, we can say, yeah, maybe there were times where I still needed and clung to the safe harbor of my parents. On the edge of a small cape that marked the side of the bay away from the promontory was a loose scatter of rocks. Above them, some boys were stripping off their clothes. They came running, naked, down to the rocks. The English boy swam toward them, but kept his distance at a stone's throw. Now, that probably to him seems like a very mature thing to do, to go skinny dipping. He likely has never done anything like that yet in his young life. They were of that coast. All of them were burned smooth, dark brown, and speaking a language he did not understand. So this is a foreign situation. To be with them, of them, was a craving that filled his whole body. So he wants to be part of that group, right? He is separate from them and wants to be a part of a group like that. He swam a little closer. They turned and watched him with narrowed, alert, dark eyes. Then one smiled and waved. It was enough. In a minute, he had swum in and was on the rocks beside them, smiling with a desperate, nervous supplication. They shouted cheerful greeting at him. And then, as he preserved his nervous, uncomprehending smile, they understood that he was a foreigner strayed from his own beach, and they proceeded to forget him. But he was happy. He was with them. So just having them say hello to him was enough for him to feel like, oh, I'm someone. They began diving again and again from a high point into a well of blue sea between rough pointed rocks. After they had dived and come up, they swam around, hauled themselves up, and waited their turn to dive again. They were big boys, men to Jerry. He dived and they watched him. And when he swam around to take his place, they made way for him. He felt he was accepted, and he dived again, carefully, proud of himself. Soon the biggest of the boys poised himself, shot down into the water, and did not come up. The others stood about, watching. Jerry, after waiting for the sleek brown head to appear, let out a yell of warning. They looked at him idly and turned their eyes back toward the water. All right, we're going to stop there for the first part of this lesson, and I will see you again soon for the next part of reading and doing a close reading of Through the Tunnel by Doris Lessing. See you soon.